Hello, my name is Abigail, and on this channel I talk about books and things that I'm passionate about, and I have multiple pages of research and video preparing that I have done to bring to you my Goodreads predictions. Now, while I have not been formally diagnosed, something ain't right upstairs, so I took this and I said, you know what, let's make it as generic yet oddly specific as possible. There will be very little visual intrigue from my portion of the screen, so I'm going to go ahead and shrink myself down and put a big, nice, happy thing on the screen so that you can see what I'm talking about as I go. This is going to be very little effort on filming Abigail and a ton of effort on editing Abigail, so you legally have to like and subscribe now. I don't make the rules, I'm just sharing the information. Pages and pages of information here, and I've got my iPad just in case I need to do a little bit of research on the fly. Okay, so the important things to remember that Goodreads only accepts a nominee if it has an average of 3.5 or higher. The dates I don't have, but if I do have them, I'll put them somewhere on the screen here. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's published after 11/11/2024, but before 11/13/2025. Hence the reason that I am making this video. And also, I'm hearing through the rumor mill that you can only have two, no more than two, I should say, nominees per category. Looking at you, Miss McFadden. So here's what I did. I looked at the past few years, most closely at 2024. If any of those authors published in 2025, they made my contenders list. If an author published more than one book, this is when I got specific. I looked at number of ratings, reviews, star rating, and publication date. Let's talk about some general predictions. I am not psychic, but if I was, I would probably bet on this. I believe that Atmosphere will appear somewhere on the Goodreads Awards. I think that the likelihood that it appears in romance is lower compared to, I would say, general fiction, or even historical fiction. I lean more towards historical fiction. Here is the specifics I didn't do. Look at where she had been in the past. I think that it's possible that Riley Sager may make an appearance in the mystery and thriller category. And I know that Frida McFadden will have at least one book in the mystery thriller category. I believe that it is a possibility that Miss Rebecca Yarros will receive a nomination for Onyx Storm. I think that Favorites will end up somewhere. The Favorites by Lynn something will make an appearance. I think that it's possible that they will end up either fiction or romance. Sunrise on the Reaping will definitely make an appearance in the young adult category. Everything is Tuberculosis by John Green will be on the nonfiction list. I believe that Wild Dark Shore will make an appearance on the thriller mystery category. Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil, I believe, will make an appearance in the fiction category, possibly historical fiction. Now, here is where I talk about the genres that I read the most. That was just my general predictions. This is my romance prediction. So here's the things that I looked at most clearly, most specifically. I looked at the authors that made the list last year. And what I did was, if those authors had published a book in the year 2025, I went ahead and put it on my contenders list. So we have people like Emily Henry, Abby Jimenez, Ali Hazelwood, X2 from last year. She, I believe, has published 3 books this year. We'll talk about that in a minute. Bryn Weaver, author of the Ruinous Love trilogy. She is on there. Liz Tomford, author of the Windy City series. She's on there. Anna Huang is on there. She's a popular romance author. Elsie Silver actually has 2 on 2024 with I believe, I'm pretty sure it's the 2 of the Wild series. And then you have Lila Sage, which was the author of the Done and Dusted sort of Rebel Blue Ranch trilogy or quartet. Christina Lauren is a popular romance author. However, they did not publish in 2025. Carly Fortune is a relatively popular author who makes it to the Goodreads Choice Awards fairly frequently. Lori Gilmore for the Pumpkin Spice Cafe series, whatever, Dream Harbor series. They have been on this list, so I figured I would move them over. Catherine Center was on this list last year. I always want to say Ryan Kennedy, but it's Kennedy Ryan was on here last year. And Lucy Score is also a popular author. So those are the authors that I saw that had been on 2024. So I went ahead and started looking at this more closely. And for my personal predictions, so that I have more of a possibility of being correct, I have chosen 24 books. The higher they are on my list, the more likely I believe that they will appear. All right, starting up at probably the winner. If I had to predict, this would be my not my winner pick, but the one that I believe would be the winner. I will also, as I'm going down this list, pop a indication of whether or not I read this book on the screen, whether it's verbally or if I forget somewhere in the middle of this 48 book mention, I will pop it on the screen as well. So if I had to guess which book would win, I would say Emily Henry's Great Big Beautiful Life. Emily Henry is the darling of Book Talk, of BookTube, of Bookstagram, of the bookstores. Emily Henry is publishing a book. Everyone knows about it. Everyone is there for it. Everyone has read it, with the exception of me. I've given Emily Henry one shot and I was not impressed with the 100 pages that I read. I do own most of Emily Henry's books because I was hyped up so much about Emily Henry that I thought I would love Emily Henry, and I read 100 pages and softy enoughed it. I call it a softy enough because I own multiple of her books and I would like to eventually read them, because if I don't read them, then it feels like a waste of money. So it's softy enough. But I believe that Great Big Beautiful Life will, if not be the winner, will be the runner-up. And I believe that the following authors will also, with their books, be on this list. Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. Now here's where things get tricky, because like I mentioned earlier, Ali Hazelwood actually published 3 books. So here's the specifics. Deep End was published February 4th. It has a number of ratings of 390,437. Now this is just the people who went on there and marked a star rating. Of the people that marked the star rating, 66,174 had something to say about the book. The book has an average of 3.88 stars. The second book that she published in the year of 2025 was Problematic Summer Romance. This was published May 27th. There are 227,713 ratings with 38,158 reviews, has an average rating of 3.86 stars. And the third book that Ali Hazelwood published in the year of 2025, a recent publication, October 7th to be exact, has already been rated 83,998 times, with a total of 15,664 people actually having something to say about it. And at the time that I recorded all of this data, had an average rating of 4.22 stars. Now, going back to some of the things that I believe that Goodreads will hold to, I believe that they will continue with the only 2 books per category. Now, here's the thing. In the past, Ali Hazelwood's Bride, which is the first one to Mate, which is Mate's predecessor, that made it onto the romance category. It didn't make it into romantasy, which it has a paranormal element, but it made it onto romance. Here's my thoughts. If I had to, which I do, because I'm making this video, if I had to say which 2 books will be on here, I am going to go ahead and say that I believe that it will be, if Miss Ali Hazelwood has 1, it's Deep End. If she has 2, it'll be Deep End. And I think it will be Mate. And here's why. This is a recent release, yes, but here's where that data comes into play. Mate, after only been out for less than a month, has already amassed roughly, actually over, a third of the ratings that Problematic Summer Romance has. And they are almost at half as many actual physical typed up reviews. It has an average of 4.22 stars, and at the time that I'm filming this, which is early November, I think that most people will read it around the time of release, or if not really soon, in the anticipation of this being a part of this Goodreads Choice Awards, being that Bride was on it. Plus, you also have to take into account, I believe Goodreads takes into account anyway, number of books shelved, or number of shelved per book. And being that this book came out around the Halloween season, being that it has to do with werewolves, I think it gets an auto bump for that. So my personal prediction would be that Allie Hazelwood's Deep End and Allie Hazelwood's Mate would make this list, but it would not shock me if somewhere on there Problematic Summer Romance was a part of this. Moving on to the next author, Brynne Weaver. I believe that only one of her books will make it on here. Scythe and Sparrow was published the February the 11th, and it has 171,870 star ratings, 21,380 reviews, and has an average of 4.09. Now, Miss Brynne Weaver also published a book fairly recently, 9/23 to be exact, September 23rd, and that book has gotten 30,974 star ratings and only 5,885 typed reviews, and is currently, at the time that I compiled this data, sitting at 4.29 average star rating. So for that reason, I do believe that Scythe and Sparrow will be the book. If there is one by Brynne Weaver, that will be the book that makes this list. However, it would not shock me if Taurus Season made this list. Here's why. It came out during the Halloween season, and it has it's not like a sweet, soft, contemporary romance. It's called Taurus Season, and it's the title of the series is Cape Carnage. So I read it near Halloween, or for the Halloween season. I think I started it the day-ish that it came out, and I finished it about a week later, which puts us right into October. So it wouldn't shock me if that book was on the list, but if I had to guess which one I think, I would say Scythe and Sparrow. Next up, we have Liz Tomford. The only book that came out in the 2025 year was Rewind It Back, and because it has a pretty decent readership, I believe that it's possible that Miss Liz Tomford could see her book Rewind It Back on that list. Anna Huang came out with King of Envy this year. Anna Huang has a very decent readership as well. Anna Huang is somebody that you see a lot of Twisted Love, and I think that the Twisted series has garnered enough attention to bring the King of Sin series to the forefront as well. Being that it was published this year, I do believe it's possible that that one will be featured. Next, we have Elsie Silver. Wild Rose was published on March 4th. And Wild Card was published on 9/9. Now, in the past, Elsie Silver has had 2 books on there. So I do believe that it is possible that Miss Elsie Silver could see both of her books on there again as well. Now, Wild Rose, having been published March 4th, has a number of ratings of 205,184, with a total of 23,095 of those people actually typing something, and has a current rating of 4.18. Wild Card published, here's where this is why I think it's possible that she'll have 2. Wild Card was published 9/9, so we're looking at today, we're in November, we're in early November, so this book has been out for less than 2 months, and currently, well, at the time that I'm filming this, less than 2 months, but it already has a total of 112,978 ratings, and already 13,890 typed reviews. So this book has already passed the halfway point of Wild Rose. So they're pretty, if one is on there, I think it's possible both will be. But if I had to say one, I would say Wild Rose, but I would wager that Wild Card will be at least somewhere mentioned. Then we have Lori Gilmore, which is the author of the Dream Harbor Pumpkin Spice stuff. I didn't care for it. But we have one that was published March 13th, Strawberry Patch Pancake House. And then we have Gingerbread Bakery, which was published September 16th. So Strawberry Patch Pancake House has 93,816 ratings and 10,647 reviews, has an average of 3.89, barely making the cutoff. And then we have Gingerbread Bakery, which has 26,363 ratings and 3,000 exactly at the time that I recorded this data, with an average rating of 4.03. I would say that if I had to pick one, I would say obviously I'm going to go for Strawberry Patch Pancake, but being that Gingerbread Bakery is a very fall winter-esque thing, it wouldn't surprise me if that one made it over Strawberry Patch Pumpkin Pancake Place, whatever, because I personally like to read autonomously, and it wouldn't surprise me if others do as well. Next, we have Carly Fortune, One Golden Summer. I believe that will make it. The Love Haters by Catherine Center. As I mentioned, Catherine Center and Carly Fortune are pretty popular in the romance space, though I have never read from either. Kennedy Ryan is another one who's popular. Kennedy Ryan published a book this year. I moved it over to my guesses. And then we have Lila Sage. Lila Sage published two books in 2025. One releasing April 15th, being Wild and Wrangled, and that one was had an average rating of 3.95 stars and has a total number of ratings of 99,707, with 17,271 people actually typing something. And then Soul Searching, which released 9/30, so it's a fairly new release. However, I feel will get a spooky season bump, because Soul Searching is about a woman who sees ghosts and talks to them. I did read this book and I did enjoy it. And that one has a current standing of 3.74 star. And rating wise, they have 17,952 ratings, 4,873 reviews. However, I believe if I had to choose, I would say Wild and Wrangled will be on this list. Next up, we have Story of My Life by Lucy Score. Lucy Score is another one of the popular romance authors on TikTok, Instagram. Lucy Score, you can't go into a bookstore without seeing a Lucy Score book. So I moved it over for that reason. And that book that was released this year is called Story of My Life. Now, those are the ones that I'm fairly certain of. Okay. Here are the ones that are more vibe-based. If It Makes You Happy by Julie Olivia. This book was sold out almost everywhere when I wanted to get it, which makes me think that it was released, first of all, it was released in a fall time, and it has fall on the cover. And I feel that it is possible, based on the fact that it was sold out everywhere, based on the fact that it was extra fall and released in the fall, I think that this will make a list. At least make the list. First Time Caller by B.K. Borison. So many people talk about this book. I don't see how it doesn't get at least mentioned for somebody's top of the year, possibly Goodreads. Love Arranged by Lauren Asher. Lauren Asher is a fairly popular romance author as well. I don't know anything about her personally because I do not read those books. I haven't read those books, I should say. And editing me popping in here to say one thing. It looks like I'm sunburned. I'm not. I don't know what's going on. But Sounds Like Love by Ashley Poston is on this list, but I, for some reason, didn't talk about it. So you'll see it pop up like I talked about it. So just ignore that. I think it's possible Ashley Poston's books makes the list. I think it's Poston. Unsure. Let me know in the comments down below. Is it Poston or is it Poston? They seem to be really popular, so I think it's possible. Hannah Bonham Young published 2 books this year, and it would surprise me if at least one of them didn't make the list, because Hannah Bonham Young is getting a lot more attention at this time, and she definitely deserves her flowers. The 2 books that she published this year, one of which was published in January 28th, is called Out of the Woods. Now, the rating wise, we have a small amount of ratings, but when we get to the horror section, you'll see that I don't necessarily think that ratings matter all that much. It's more like shelved, I would say, is where I think that Goodreads does place some emphasis. So it was rated 40,376 times with a reviews of 9,247, average of 3.88 stars. People watching came out in September. Again, another autumnal boost. Okay, it's a very fall cover. It came out in the fall. This one came out 9/9. It has 14,000. Here's why I think this is a contender. Because in just under 2 months, it has already amassed 14,604 ratings, 4,145 reviews. However, it does have an average rating of 3.16 stars. So if I had to choose, I would say Out of the Woods of the two. The next book I feel has possibility of making this list is going to be The Charlie Method by Elle Kennedy. This is another situation where it's a popular romance author. There's a lot of books in the series. She has a cult following. Well, I mean, cult following is a little strong, but she has a following on the book spaces. And then we're moving into my extra throw-ins, just in case I get 1 or 2 of them wrong. I have some extras on here. I put The Favorites on the list by Lynn Fargo because while I'm not sure if it'll end up general fiction, could be historical fiction, I've actually not read the book, but I believe that it will make some lists because a lot of people have talked about it this year. Then we have Left of Forever by Tara Dewitt. This is another one. The reason I'm not so sure about this one is because it is a sequel. However, there are several sequels that I do believe will make it. I think that it's possible that Left of Forever by Tara Dewitt will make this list. Now I have kind of a wild card pick here, Caught Up by Nevessa Allen. I think that Nevessa Allen has had quite a bump on social media lately, especially with the release of the 3rd book coming sometime next year. I think that it's possible with the hype surrounding, I mean, people were even Allie and Josh for Halloween. So I think it's possible that Caught Up, the sequel to Lights Out, which stars Allie and Josh, I think it's possible that Caught Up will make this list. And then finally, Promise Me Sunshine by Cara Bastone. A lot of people have mentioned it. This is my sort of Hail Mary pick. Like, it's not, I think that almost every book that I've mentioned prior to this has a higher chance of being on there, but that book being on there wouldn't surprise me. It's not a complete wild card to me. So now we will move into the horror section. Once again, the first thing that I did was go ahead and look at the previous Goodreads Choice Awards for the horror section. We have Stephen King, T. Kingfisher, Eric LaRocca, Chuck Tingle, Stephen Graham Jones, Rachel Harrison, Grady Hendrix, Paul Tremblay, Silva Morena Garcia, Isabel Cañas, Chuck Wendig, Tiana Reeve Dew, CJ Lead, Darcy Coates, S.A. Barnes, and Ronald Malfi are popular enough to feel like it's possible that they would make it on this list. So the next thing that I did, Goodreads had put out a best horror of the last 10 years, and they featured 8 books from 2025. Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix, Buffalo Hunter Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones, Never Flinch by Stephen King, Bat Eater and Other Names for Cora Zhang by Kylie Lee Baker, The Lamb by Lucy Rose, Hungerstone by Kat Dunn, The Bewitching by Silva Morena Garcia, and Blood on Her Tongue by Joanna Van Veen. I personally have no reason to assume that these books would not make that list. If they made the best of the last 10 years, why wouldn't they make the best of this year? I didn't really look at publication date or ratings or previous books because horror automatically gets a bump in October and November. I looked at these things, but I didn't pay as much attention to it like I did with romance. So being that I have no reason to believe that the top 8 from 2025 won't move right on over to the top 20 of 2025, moved them right in. Now, going back to the list of authors that I mentioned, on the list over here, I would say that for the popular authors, I would move Rachel Harrison right on over. Now, there's been a lot of talk about When the Wolf Comes Home by Nat Cassidy. I believe that that will make the list. It made mine. The Possession of Abadias has garnered a lot of attention, especially recently. It was a book of the month pick. Her books historically do well, so I do believe that it's possible that that will make the list. Stephen Graham Jones published The Buffalo Hunter Hunter this year, but he also published Killer on the Road / The Babysitter Lives. I was unsure if I should put this on the list because one was it was a duology where you like have one on one side and it flips to the other side, or it's not a duology, it's like two stories put in one binding and you have one on one side and one on the other. That's what I mean. But one of those stories was published prior, so I did not think that it would make the list, but if it does, that does not surprise me. So after I looked at that top 8 and after I looked at that list of authors and I checked to see if any of the ones who didn't make the initial list had published anything in 2025, I moved on to popular authors that were not featured on that list, and I started looking more at the less popular than like the Rachel Harrison, the Nat Cassidy. So I moved on to CJ Lead, who published American Rapture this year. I've heard some things about it. I haven't heard everything about it. So, I mean, I own it. It wouldn't surprise me if that made the list. Chuck Tingle published Lucky Day this year. This is a more recent release, but Chuck Tingle garnered a lot of attention with Bury Our Gaze. So I think it's possible. Darcy Coates is a very popular author, and Darcy Coates published The Vengeful Dead this year. S.A. Barnes published Cold Eternity. It's possible that Cold Eternity makes that list. And Ronald Malfi, this is the one that if I had to say I'm least sure of the non-vibes based, I would say this is the one I'm least sure about. Ronald Malfi published Senseless this year. It's possible it makes the list. Now here's where we get into vibes based. I've heard a lot of people talk about Victorian Psycho by Virginia Fiedo. I've also heard a lot of people talk about The Unworthy by Augustina, I'm going to butcher that last name. And I think that this book will make the list because this is the author of Tender is the Flesh. And Tender is the Flesh is still being talked about, though I haven't read it yet. It is regularly brought up into 2025 despite it having been published more than 2 years ago at this point. I think that The Immaculate Conception by Ling Ling Wang will also make this list. This is more of a, I think it's more of a like fantastical take, but I believe that this book has gotten enough attention to at least make a vibes-based list. And I think that it's possible that We Love You Bunny by Mona A. Wad also makes this list. Despite it being relatively recently published, many people read Bunny by Mona A. Wad, and I think that enough people will have shelved this to have it be possible. Now, I didn't check the ratings on this one. This one is fully vibes-based, did no research, just decided it belonged. And then finally, we'll move into my wild cards. I think What Hunger by Catherine Dang has gotten a lot of attention, and I know that female rage stories super popular. And the reason that I say that I'm not looking as much into like publication date, ratings, reviews, and that kind of stuff for horror is because I think it automatically gets a bump towards the end of the year, especially when you have Halloween and when you have like the colder months. People automatically aren't reading happy sunshine shit. I mean, if you are, good for you, but I read very autonomally, and so I read my darker books during like the darker months. I read my happier fucking sunshine rainbows during the happier sunshine rainbow months. So next, I think that What Stalks the Deep by T. Kingfisher, which is the third book in the What Moves the Dead sort of series. There's series of like novellas. Those are popular. The first and the second one both made the Goodreads Choice Awards list. So I think that this one is possibly up there as well. Oops, I did it again. I don't know what's wrong with Past Me, but editing me is having to make a lot of corrections. Coffin Moon by Keith Rawson, I did not mention. I read it. I think it's gotten a lot of attention, so I think it has a chance. So you're gonna see it pop up like I talked about it, ignore it, pretend like I just talked about it. Okay, great. And then finally, for a, like, this would be my wild card. Daddy King is up there, so it wouldn't surprise me if King of Sorrow by Joe Hill made the cut. All right, so those are my thoughts. Let me know in the comments down below. Do we have similar thoughts? Have you read any of these? I hope that I remember in editing to put a symbol over the ones that I've read and the ones that I haven't, because I just realized I didn't say anything at all about whether or not I've read them. So let me know in the comments down below. Have we read any of the same books? Do you have similar feelings about these? I'm willing to bet that other people have done better and more accurate Goodreads predictions, but I feel pretty confident about, at the very least, 10 of each. That would be my guess. So I will be back on this channel when we have a reaction. I'm going to save my papers, okay? I'm going to save them and we will compare and contrast what I got right, what I got wrong, and yeah, I will see you in the next one.